it's Christmas. It's funny that I haven't thought to call you before. And why is it I haven't seen you around anymore? Another year has passed and I can't erase the memory of your smiling face. So I had to call you up and say, gee whiz, it's Christmas. So don't forget the party that we're throwing. The warm fire from the fireplace will be glowing. It's been a long, long time. I still can't figure out why you crossed my mind. I guess it's just to say, gee whiz, it's Christmas. I'm wishing.
I want to wish my viewers a Merry Christmas to all of you, wherever you are, at home in Guyana or in the diaspora. It is Christmas here in England. It will be Christmas soon in Guyana. I have with me a brilliant Christmas present here. None other than the indomitable Coretta MacDonald, who is the Shadow Minister of Education and Member of Parliament. Chaos with the government's cash grant. Chaos, madness. And Coretta will be telling us all about it, how distasteful and disrespectful that process has been. People in Region 4, teachers in particular in Region 4, were left out in the sun for hours, were locked out, were treated like animals. But I want to bring my guest in, none other than Shadow Minister of Education, Coretta MacDonald. And she will be telling us all about what is happening. But before we go to Coretta, let us have a look at a brief clip of what is happening.
What happened? Why we going outside? Why they coming out?
Because they changed the new accreditation
Coretta MacDonald joins me now. A Merry Christmas to you, and of course, a prosperous New Year. I know this is the festive season, and you have been an educator for so long. You've got thousands, literally thousands, of teachers and young people who look up to you. And I know you would like to wish them a Merry Christmas before we go straight into the serious aspect of this program, where many teachers and many Guyanese will not be enjoying a great Christmas and a fun-filled Christmas because of a promise that has been botched, a promise by the PPP government. Coretta MacDonald, once again, it's great to have you on this program. How are you?
Hi, dear. Good night to you, and good night to all of your viewers, especially our people back home in Guyana. I just want to take this opportunity before we get into the business of the evening to wish them a Merry, Merry Christmas. As a matter of fact, to our teachers especially, I know that you were planning to do so much, but the little pittance that they think they're offering you, which is a whole mountain, that too has not been afforded to you. But I want to say to our teachers, You have been tremendously great over the, if I can put the two together, over the years. You have been resolved, you have been resilient, and you know that very soon we are going to triumph. I want to thank you for your support during the years, during last year, this year that is coming to an end very soon. And I want to thank you in advance for your continued support. As a matter of fact, I want to thank the many, many teachers, the thousands of teachers across this country who would have given me that confidence of their vote, in the form of their nominations, as we go through, or as we went through the nominations period for the GTU's elections. I want to thank those teachers for their confidence in me. Uh, Norman, I must say that the teachers have seen in me great potential, and so they've nominated me as their presidential, as the president of the GTU. So our elections next year, thousands of teachers are going to be voting for Coretta MacDonald. As a matter of fact, let me say we have just about 42 branches in Guyana, and what, maybe 38, 37, 36 of those branches would have nominated Coretta MacDonald as president of GT, as a candidate they want to see for president, or the candidate they will vote for. And that in itself is saying to us that teachers are indeed serious about leaders who are committed, and leaders who, quote unquote, have their backs, and leaders who will fight for them regardless of who is sitting in government, because their priority and their well-being is our priority. And so I just wanted to get that off.
Perfect. I want to go straight into the program. I want to wish you well in that elections, and I'm absolutely certain that you will be triumphant, and that you will be voted in as within the capacity you're seeking. You have labeled the government's cash grant. That is, we understand that the distribution is ongoing at the moment. You have labeled that process distasteful, disrespectful, and despicable. And you have outlined poor planning, bank deposits being ignored, security concerns. Coretta, what is happening on the ground seems to us in the diaspora as something that is really shameful indeed. We see chaos, we see confusion, we see Guyanese being out there in the hot sun, like they are begging, like they're chattels begging for a pittance from the PPP regime, and this is quite serious. What we are seeing is akin to, like an apartheid regime offering something to its subjects that they have to sit out in the sun. They have to pack up like sardines out there and so on. I know that you have been on the ground, and you have first-hand knowledge of what is happening. Begin by telling us about this government's cash grant and
Well, let
what it
me,
is.
sorry. Well, let me say, first of all, the president addressed Parliament, and in his address, it's where he made that big announcement about the $200,000, and that it's going to be distributed instantaneously. Just about a couple of days or so after that, I want to label him as the real president. Came out and he said at his Thursday cuss out, he said, no, it's not going to be instantaneously. It's going to be in about 5 months. And so that's where the confusion started. And then we had more confusion when the $200,000 was challenged, because they said then that the $200,000 is going to be for every household. Now, the confusion started with instantaneously and 5 months, and then the household. So they could not define household when we started asking question, how do you define a household? Because we know that we have tenants, we have landlords living in the same somebody living upstairs, somebody living downstairs. So how do you define a household? But to get to the meat of the matter, it boiled down to $100,000 per Guyanese citizen, as long as you're 18 years and over. And then you had the talks about who will receive first and who will not receive first. But what I found very disgusting is the fact that the Minister of Education, like her crazy self, she went out on her Facebook page and she was talking about this and that. And then she said, oh, the cash grant will be paid out tomorrow. The distribution will start tomorrow for teachers. Now, I would have thought that a responsible Minister of Education would go out there, would sit with her staff and decide, and they would plan. And this here, what we saw here, it just confirms what we've been saying all the time. They are visionless, they don't plan, and they just wake up a morning, or they go to bed one night and they wake up in the morning after having a fancy dream, and they decide that they're going to implement whatever that dream is. So it is showing exactly how incompetent they are. Now, as I was saying before, one would think that a minister of education and her team would sit there and decide, look, these are teachers, this is how we will operate. We are going to set centers and have our teachers assemble at those centers, and the distribution will start. Or we can give the checks, because it's check. We can give those checks to the head teachers, invite the head teachers, let them come in, uplift the checks, and then they will return to their schools, and the teachers will uplift the checks. They will sign and uplift the checks right at the schools. We didn't see that happening. Or the third option could have been you deposit those monies in the teachers' accounts, because you have all of that information. We did not see that happening. What we saw happening was teachers were told that they had to go to the Ministry of Education 21 breakdown to uplift the check. Some teachers turned up there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Nothing was happening. And by the time they started the distribution of the checks, you had loads and loads of teachers there, all lining up on the outside. Sun was there, then the rain came, and teachers had to be opening up umbrella. What I find here, the hypocrisy in the way the PPP operate. They every 2 mornings they're cussing Burnham. Burnham died since 1985, and every 2 mornings they're cussing Burnham. They spoke about how Burnham used to have people lining up in lines. And I'm sure you saw what happened yesterday. It continued today, and it will continue on the 27th, where teachers, my upset came because teachers are the nation's molders. And why you would want to bring teachers to that level, to have them lined off in the streets. You're closing a gate on them, and you're deciding 25 will come in at this time. And then on top of that, when teachers went in, some of them had to be checking 4 sets of tables and lists and couldn't find their names on those lists. Mind you, the officials went to every school and teachers were registered. But when teachers turned up yesterday morning and turned up today, their names could not have been found on those lists. And so this happened in Georgetown, for the teachers in Georgetown and Region 4. It also happened in Bartica yesterday, where teachers' names were mixed up with the list for private sector, and private sector names were mixed up with the list for the public sector. So it's a whole lot of crazy confusion that is happening, which is a reflection of the PPP government.
Coretta
But I find it
MacDonald. Go
very,
ahead.
very repulsive that you would treat teachers that way, when in fact you had a system well organized for the parents to receive the $40,000 cash grant that we gave to the children. That was well organized. The schools had to prepare their auditoriums. They were even instructed on what kind of curtain they should use as their backdrop, what color of curtain, as a matter of fact, they should use as their backdrop. And you had the ministers there, different ministers were there at the various locations in the regions, and there was a mini concert. And so when you contrast what transpired with the parents who collected the $40,000 and teachers who now have to collect, it shows a vast difference. Am I to understand that because the teachers were on protest the other day, highlighting the deficiencies of the ministries with regards to them giving salary increases, that's why you're punishing them now by saying, okay, they were out there for 75 days, let's put them out there again in the sun to stand up? It leaves so many questions in your mind. Another, let me relate, compare this with another one. We just had the Diamond Ball, and you did not see the revelers there at the Diamond Ball lining up to go in. It was done in such a sophisticated way.
Because it's
And
the
so are
government's
we
elites.
saying that our teachers are not on the same level with the Diamond Ballers? Then if that's the case, this government, they need to pack up and go.
Coretta MacDonald here, Shadow Minister of Education and Member of Parliament. Very, very outspoken. I want to ask you this question. I know you refer to the disbursement and the whole cash grant fiasco. You refer to it as poor planning, an aspect of poor planning. But do you believe, along with poor planning, it was deliberately done because it is an election ploy? It is the government's move to create a situation in which you have crowds left in the sun, and so that the world can see so many people waiting out there as if they are supporters of the PPP regime, giving them $100,000 of taxpayers' money. Is there some aspect of optics to make people believe that so many thousands of people are coming out there as supporters of the government to get that money?
Well, that was one ploy. The other ploy was, of course, the photo ops. So you have those photo ops, and then you prompt a couple of person, you prepare a couple of persons to say, well, oh, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Minister of Education. This will do me well. Thank you for being so thoughtful. Thank you for being what thoughtful. It's the people's money. And so we don't have to thank you for giving us our monies. When you sit as government, then you have to prepare for the people and you have to provide for them. So we don't have to thank you for anything. But this is the kind of scenarios they try to create there, and to push that to the outer world to show, oh, this is a caring government. But you can't be a caring government when you have your educators standing outside in the rain and the sun. And then when after spending 3 and 4 hours, your name is not on the list. And then they don't know when they'll be able to have you registered. That doesn't happen in civilized societies. It doesn't. And so every time we try to make 2 or 3 steps forward, we're making 5 and 6 backward.
We're making 5 and 6 backward. If you were to say to the people of Guyana, are we looking, Coretta, at 100,000 Guyana dollars in any estimation? It is not much. It's not a fortune. The president said recently, President Irfanali installed, I want to say installed, said recently that Guyanese should take that cash grant and turn it into wealth. You understand? Long term wealth, do something with it and so on. We are talking about 100,000 Guyana dollars. I think it's just a few thousand in US and pounds.
A few hundred.
A few hundred, yeah, a few hundred in US and pounds. Um, what would you like? I mean, the teachers have been treated as third class citizens. You did say, those who went to the president's wife, I understand it was organized by the Diamond Ball. Was organized by the president's wife to show off the criticisms coming from this program and other areas in Guyana, that she had to show that she was doing something outside of you know losing
Sanitary
weight,
terms.
right? So outside
And
of
sanitary
losing weight.
times. Eh?
Yeah, and so nothing was being said of her outside of, or slimming down and so on, so to speak, in the Guyana terms. Suddenly there's a diamond ball and there's all these kinds of stuff. But getting back to this issue of the cash grant, we live in modern times. Guyana is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Look, it's very simple. Everybody has social media. I think everybody, has a bank account, and if they don't, it's because of this government's ineptitude that it hasn't been able to, in the midst of the wealth, to ensure that Guyanese are prepared, in modernity, to 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 be modern, like, sorry, but here is a situation where you talk about bank deposits being ignored. Elaborate on that. Is that deliberate? Is it because the government wants to throw cash in people's hand so that they can feel like, what, the government gave us this money, we have to go to them, we have to really, genuflect before them and so on? Explain a bit about that.
Well, let me tell you what. They, in the hinterland or the deep hinterland, they have given cash. And so, again, it's a whole lot of politics being playing out there where when you give $100,000 to an individual, especially for an individual who have never had the opportunity to collect $100,000 one time like that, you try, as in Guyanese terms, you swell up their heads, eh? And so it gives you this kind of feeling that you're important or extra important. And here it is, the government looking after me. You see, I got $100,000. But then in actual fact, if we were to dissect that $100,000 in Georgetown, the least you can pay for rent is $50,000. That's the least you can pay for rent. And that could probably be for a room. And if you were to talk about buying a bottle of cooking gas, that's about $4,800, somewhere around there. If you were to buy eggs, it's Christmas time. If you were to buy eggs, if you were to buy some grapes, a couple of apples, you buy some rice, I think it's what, $2,400
It
for a
goes
sack
way
of
beyond
rice.
that 100,000.
So, and I'm just trying to show you this 100,000, the 100,000, it's actually nothing. While it's a little throw in the bucket that can help to go somewhere. The big fuss about this $100,000 doesn't carry the weight. The fuss, the $100,000 doesn't have the weight like the fuss. So, you know, when we look at what the coalition had in place there for every family, that $100,000 would have been thrown through the window. And again, if it were the coalition government, you would never see people having to line up to collect their monies. I'm not sure if you saw what was happening
It looked
in
really
Bartico,
bad.
where you
It
had
looked
the
really bad.
pension,
Yes, yes.
where you
For
had the
hours.
pensioners there,
Yeah.
and hours those people were
When
standing
in
in
the
lines.
sun.
You
Yeah,
had to
in the
fight
sun.
there. I remember just at St. Stanislaus there, because when they recognized that the crowd was too large at 21 Brickdam, Ministry of Education 21 Brickdam, they told them, well, you have to go to St. Stanislaus. So they went there. And the teachers got very impatient. We had some pregnant teachers there who, they were actually crushed, almost crushed, let me say that. because people were waiting in the rain. Then you had umbrellas had to be opened. People had to rush to another side to get shelter. I mean, it was disgusting, very
You
disgusting.
spoke to some of
And
the teachers. What did they say to you in actual
well,
words?
the teachers were very frustrated. As a matter of fact, I spoke with a teacher this morning, and she was trying to inquire from me this morning whether she should return to the location because yesterday she went there and her name was not there. Mind you, this teacher was teaching in Georgetown. So her home address and everything is here, but she is now transferred to Berbice. And so she had to come here to get, because even though she's transferred in Berbice, her salary is still coming from Georgetown. So the teacher came here, her name is nowhere there. So she was inquiring whether she should return this morning, but she was fearful that having to stand in a line for 2 and 3 hours, and then when you get up there, your name is not there again. And today being Christmas Eve Day, you know what's happening there in terms of transportation to get to New Amsterdam. Other teachers complained about, again, their names not being there. Most of them complained about the long hours that they had to wait there. And of course, quite a number of them complained about going to the bank, not being able to get to the bank on time, or
Time,
when they
yeah.
got to the bank, they could not cash the check. And so the whole thing is a big film show.
It's
If
a
we can call it
sham.
that,
It's a sham.
it's a whole big film show.
It's a sham, and I think that they deliberately done that because people will not get that money. Majority teachers and others will not get that money for Christmas,
Nope,
but they
nope, nope.
wanted the optics and so on.
Mhm, mhm.
Coretta, I don't understand. When we look at all that you would have seen, and you've been very vocal today and yesterday about what is happening, what would you like to say to the people, the Guyanese people, wherever they are, as it relates to the competence of this government and its
Well,
theatrics?
well, first of all, I would want to say to Guyanese, to our folks, sometimes what happens to us is what we accept on many occasions. Because if we were to demand from the government that you put proper systems in place before we come to collect that $100,000, then they'll put the systems in place. But Norman, you could understand a man not having a steady job. And so here is $100,000 for him to go and stand up for an hour, 2 hours to collect. You know what will happen there. They would want to go out there to receive that. And so that's the calamity that persons find themselves in right now, where their backs are so much against the wall because jobs are not readily
People are
available.
suffering and desperate.
People are desperate to receive that money. So they will go and stand up in the lines. But I want to say to this government, your incompetence has been broadcast all across this world. And if you are worth your salt, then come the 27th, you would put a better system in place for the pensioners, for teachers, and for other public servants, rather than having them stand in those long lines. Norman, and for your viewers, this is not rocket science. In Georgetown, we have three education districts in Georgetown, or three GTU districts in Georgetown. We have South Georgetown, North Georgetown, and East Georgetown. For the teachers in South Georgetown, all we had to do is to ask them to assemble at North Rumvelt Multilateral School. There's a huge auditorium there. They can all assemble there, sit, and then they come up to collect to receive their checks. The teachers from North Georgetown, all you have to do is to make an announcement, put the system in place, and ask them to assemble at Queen's College. It has been done for other things, many, many other things we see happening at those locations that I'm calling. But to distribute the cash grant to the teachers, you want them to line up in line. For the teachers in East Georgetown, all you need to do is to have them assemble at St. Joseph High. For the teachers on the East Coast, You can either do Bladen Hall multilateral and some other school that is close by. So you capture two groupings, the two sets of teachers. For the East Bank, we can look at maybe Diamond Secondary as a central point, and somewhere going up to Seuss Dike, you can look at that for as another central point. These are simple things, simple arrangements that can be put in place. But again, this government feels that they are superior and that the masses are way under their feet, so they can treat them anyhow.
Any
And
of
more,
Go
more
ahead. Mm.
teachers, they feel that this is their opportunity to again punish teachers.
Punish teachers, and we know there's a history, a recent history of punishing teachers. But let me get to, for the sake of clarification and for my viewers, this distribution, is it countrywide? Is Linden benefiting today or yesterday from the cash grant, or is it Region 4 and Region 7, and they're doing it in parts?
Well, it seems as if they're just deciding to go wherever they feel like going. So the teachers in Georgetown benefited. Teachers and other public servants in Georgetown benefited because I noticed the Ministry of Finance staff, they were receiving right at the Ministry of Finance. The staff, they were receiving their checks. I noted the nurses received yesterday at the Georgetown Hospital. Nurses received there. And Bartica, I am not sure when it's the day for Linden, when it's the day for Region 5, when it's the day for Region 6. But Region 4, Georgetown, and Bartica, which is Region 7, they have been able to receive. I'm not sure if it's the entire Region 7 because, you still have the Upper Mass area and all of that. So I'm not sure whether
But that
it
in
was
itself is a problem,
just.
because if the government, we live in a modern world, an advanced world. You can't sectionalize things anymore. You can't discriminate anymore. If you are to roll out a cash grant, you can't roll out a cash grant to several communities or towns and leave other towns out for another time. It has to be in such an organized way in which the country benefits at the same time. How could Region 4 or sections of Region 4 maybe PPP supported part? Because I understand that there's a census that says that the PPP has made indentation in Region 4 in certain sections. So Region 4 was primarily an opposition constituency, but we understand now that the PPP has made indentations. They've captured a significant amount of potential voters in Region 4. But that's a topic for another time. But the question is, why is it that the teachers in Region 10 and other places cannot get that monies for Christmas, just as teachers in Georgetown and in Region 7 and other areas? What is happening there?
Again, this is the lack of planning, one. And two, the vice president, de facto president, he did say all Guyanese will not be receiving the monies by the end of the year. Some will have to receive theirs next year. And so this might be the reason why you're having some persons receiving now and then some persons others will receive theirs a little later. But this process should go for about 4 or 5 months, according to the vice president.
According to the vice president, it is very sad, Coretta. It is very sad what this government is doing to Guyanese people. Well, and for the sake of our viewers, where is this money coming from? Is it coming from this money this cash grant, the money for the cash grant? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from the Natural Resource Fund? Where is it coming from
Well,
to
these monies are actually coming from the consolidated fund, I would believe, because it's the monies that they went to Parliament to ask for. And you know what I find strange is the fact that just about 2 months ago, the government could not find $12 billion to pay teachers. You couldn't find that. But here is it, you found just Over 2 months, you found $60 billion. Where were those monies all the time? You couldn't find $12 million, 12 billion, sorry, to pay teachers. You couldn't find that. And so here again, it is saying to us that this particular government, they feel comfortable doing handouts to the citizens of this country, rather than setting the citizens at a stage where they can live comfortable and they don't have to go begging, or as the teachers would say, pay today, block tomorrow. But they feel comfortable when they can have you at a level where they can always stand and look over you. That's how this government operates.
And I think that I honestly believe, based on what I'm hearing on the ground, is that people have seen through the People's Progressive Party government. People have seen through them. And no matter what they do, Coretta MacDonald, no matter what they do, it appears as though Guyanese people, even a significant percentage of the PPP supporters, will reject them. It has not been nice. It has not been nice for the suffering people in Guyana, and we know that it's not, though it's the majority of African Guyanese that are suffering, we have a significant amount of Indo Guyanese in the PPP support base
Yep.
that are being treated shabbily. Amerindians are being,
Well,
treated shabbily, and so on. My question to you as we begin to wrap up, because we did say it's a brief program, but Coretta, so many people are tuning in, so many people, and people are asking people to share the live. So many people are tuning in. My question to you is this: we know that the government is, in this regard, it's poor planning. We know, as you said, poor planning, bank deposits ignored, security concerns, and so on. We know these things are happening. What I want to ask you, I know that you are a firebrand. I know that you're working assiduously. Like Ganesh Maipal, I see you as another a member of parliament that that cares, that is vocal, that is, that has gumption, and you're there, you're projecting and you're fighting this struggle, but you can't do it alone. My question is, the government seems to be allowed to do these things without the opposition's involvement, or I would like to use the word interference, into their mismanagement and their poor planning and performance. The role of the opposition, many believe, is to hold the government accountable. And if the government is lacking in certain areas in terms of national importance and interest, it is the opposition that has to say to the government, look, you can't roll this out. You have to get it right. I think in any democracy, the opposition has the power to say within, in relation to the interests of the people, we are saying to you that you are not allowed as a government to make decisions that are counterproductive to national development and that can offend a nation and people and slight them and deny them, right? And so it seems to many, Coretta MacDonald, that the opposition allows the government to do all these things. And many may argue that if it is poor performance, if it's security concerns, if it's, poor planning, what did the opposition do before this is rolled out to say to the government, we see through this, we have a responsibility to ensure that people are given their just dues in an equitable fashion, in a respectful fashion, in a dignified way. What, in your estimation, has the opposition done as a collective, or did not do, to curb that situation?
well, let me say first of all that the opposition did oppose when the announcement of $200,000 per household. The opposition fought that. And then we had the backing up, if I can call it that, where they now decided what a household is and how do we go about that. And then you saw the retracting, where it wasn't 200,000 any longer. It now became 100,000 for each, for Guyanese 18 and above. What the opposition was not part and parcel of in terms, and again, lack of planning and just a big announcement. So when this announcement was made the night before that the distribution will start, there wasn't much input that we could have had coming from the opposition, and it did not specify. All you saw was a Facebook live from the minister on her Facebook page. She was speaking about teachers and what they're going to do for teachers the next day. There was no announcement to say tomorrow, next week, this will happen in Bartica on this day or that day. And that's how wild this government operate, any old how. But I want to say that as soon as we saw that happening, the opposition in the form of the MP for education was right on the ground.
Wrong. Yes.
Our opposition MP again, Coretta Finance, was right on the ground in Bartica. Sherrod and I, my colleague Sherrod and I, we were on the ground in Georgetown, and we were monitoring exactly what was happening on the ground there. And so we were highlighting there what was happening, and we were making recommendations, hoping that these recommendations would have they would listen to the recommendations and they would put proper system in place. But this government is a government that is a very boastful one. They are too, quote unquote, they are too big to accept criticisms, positive criticism, that is, and to change what they're doing and to make the process smooth. They're too big to do that. As a matter of fact, for them, if they were to change their opposition, their positions now and the operations now, it would look to them as, oh, you know what? People will look at them and say, well, the opposition had to tell you to do this and cause you to do that. And as far as they're concerned, the opposition should not be advising. The opposition should not be making suggestions in many instances. But you see in many, many cases, the suggestions, the recommendations we make, a little while after they follow it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what will be the play out on the 27th and onwards. As an opposition, the opposition is as strong as its weakest link.
Yes.
The opposition is as strong as every citizen out there to whom injustice is being done. But you know what we have found happening in this country? Every time the PPP is in office, we find a certain degree or a high degree of fear being instilled in our citizens, especially those who are operating within the public sector. Today I was talking to two public servants. One, she works at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And you know what she was saying to me? She said, Miss, while we wanted to come out and support the teachers, she said we couldn't do it because the minister, Charles Ramson, the minister, and this is what is being reported by this public servant. They have persons there monitoring the Facebook pages of the staff, and they're checking to see whether you like a post from Coretta MacDonald. And if you do, then you're in for trouble.
Yeah.
And they're instructing you to like whatever like posts that are being made on the PPP's page. You have to like posts that is being made by the minister and any other member, senior official within the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, whether you like it or not. And at some points, you have to be showing them, look, I shared it. And so this degree of fear that has now come over public servants is causing many, many of them, even though they don't like what is happening, it
They
is
are being
causing them
pressured to
to
unwillingly bow. Yeah.
unwillingly bow. It's like the 10 days workers who they are forcing at every opportunity. When the PPP, if they have an event, they're forcing them to put on a red t-shirt. And if you don't, then you no longer have a job. But you know what? The people understand what is being played out, and the people of this country will do exactly what they have to do come general elections. They might be fearful, or they are fearful of coming out to protest on Tuesdays when we stand in front of GCOM. They're afraid to stand at other places. They're afraid to even sometimes have persons see them talk to you as an opposition MP. They're afraid of that because they know the kind of pressure that will come down on them. But the people understand the game that is being played, and they will put their ticks at the right places.
My final question to you, because I know it's a brief program and so many people have tuned in. If anyone has a question for the Shadow Minister of Education here, so many comments in the comment section. If you have one or two questions for the Shadow Minister, please put it into the comment section. I can see it here at the moment. I can see the comment section properly. Ask the question, and Coretta MacDonald will answer your questions. But I have a final question for you before we wrap up. I know it's the festive season. You have to make the black cake and all that for the family and for the husband and the children. So I'm not going to keep you long. But Coretta, what do you think the opposition can do within the context of the mismanagement of the cash grant, do tomorrow to hold the government's feet to the fire, to ensure that the distribution happens in a dignified, respectful, and fair way? If you were to recommend to the opposition, starting tomorrow, in holding the government's feet accountable, what would you say to your people in relation to
Well,
the, because we're identifying what is happening, and we need to offer a solution, and we need to offer the role of the opposition is to hold the government accountable, and therefore, if the people are being short changed, so to speak, it is the opposition that has to say, you know what, we have to demand at the higher level, at the national level, that this must not happen. What do you think? What would you recommend to your
well,
opposition?
I just recommended, I just gave, made some recommendations with
Mhm.
regards to teachers. I just said we have central points, and so the teachers could be assembled at those central points rather than having all the teachers in Georgetown ganging up at one place. We have three districts in Georgetown: East, South, and North. You have the North Rumfeld Multilateral, you have the St. Joseph High, you have the Queen's College Auditorium. You can use those for the teachers in Georgetown who have not yet received theirs. You can, or the Ministry of Education could also give those checks to the head teachers and trust the checks to the head teachers. Just the same way you did with the cash grants, head teachers were given huge sums of monies, millions of dollars they were handed. They collected those, and then they returned to their schools and they put systems in place to have the parents come there and uplift those monies. The very same system could be used for teachers. The very same system could be used for other public servants. And so that's the easiest way of getting our the confusion, or of not having the confusion, and not having persons standing in long lines. Simple things, those are not rocket science. Simple things we can do. I remember the opposition leader had indicated then that if this government is worth their salt, and they want to be taken seriously, and they want people to believe that they're doing everything with transparency, then they should include members of the opposition
Opposition,
on the
yes.
team when they're going out there to do the registration for the cash grant, and even when they're going to be doing the distribution of this $100,000. that was denied. And so it says to us that this government, they got corruption. Corruption will grow during this process. And we've already seen it. At Bartik, it has been reported two dead persons' names are on the list.
Yes.
One, I think he is dead 4 years ago, one a year and a half ago, and the registration did not start a year and a half ago. This cash grant only came about in September or sometime in October, whenever the announcement was made by the president. So you're seeing here that this exercise is ripe for corruption. Now, I want to ask the government to display on national television or in the newspaper the picture for that the two persons who are deceased, because I want to see what picture they received. Who was the person that registered those persons? How is it that you have dead people's names on the list when they would have been dead for at least 4 years? I want to see the picture. How did you get the ID card? And so if this is happening in Barticle, then you could imagine what is happening in Deep South, Rupununi. You
Yes.
can imagine what is happening in Anai. You can imagine what is happening in Puruni. You could imagine what is happening in some of those areas, Region 6, what might happen in Region 6, and maybe what might happen on the East Coast too, because we know that the East Coast is a nest for corruption. And so these are the issues that we were trying to avoid. These are the issues that we were trying to avoid when before the distribution of this cash grant. But again, the PPP, they are not ready to be transparent because corruption is a nest for them. And so they don't see anything wrong with them being corrupt. They don't
They
see
don't see
anything
anything
wrong.
wrong. But hear this. Do you think with the oil wealth and the mismanagement of the national patrimony, the nation's patrimony, do you think the PPP is given a greater advantage over the opposition to win the elections by foul means? Do you think so? And what mechanisms do you think the opposition can put in place to ensure that doesn't happen? Because they have taken money from, they're not accounting for the monies that coming from the natural
Mhm.
resource fund. I spoke with Dr. Terence Campbell recently on this program, and he said that, you know, what the PPP is doing with the nation's patrimony is using a large amount of it as a slush fund
Yep.
to embolden their campaign and to buy people and to win the elections, in my words. I don't want to misquote him, but that's the gist of what he was saying. The opposition has a responsibility to push that back, to go in a microscopic way to examine what the PPP is doing and give it in a clear and concise way to the people of this nation for them to understand. Many people think that there's a paucity in the opposition's connection to them and what they're giving to them and what they're doing in terms of the struggle. But that's maybe something for another program. But I want you to brush that quickly before you go to your closing remarks and we wrap up.
Like you said just now, you talk about this slush fund. This here is a perfect example of funds being dumped into their slush fund to entice the people. But you know what? Guyanese citizens are saying, the regular man out there is saying, why did it have to take you 4 years before you could give us $100,000 when you started receiving the oil monies long before
Yeah.
now? And so, the Guyanese people are reading through. They are reading through the lines, they are reading above the lines, and they are reading beneath the lines. And they understand exactly what is happening. It's they say what they're doing now is the very thing they did when we were having local government elections, when they couldn't get all these issues fixed, fix the streets, fix the road lights, fix the drainage issues and so on. When they couldn't do that all along, but by the time the date for local government elections was announced, you saw trucks, persons being issued with contracts to clean gutters. You saw roads being fixed. You saw play parks being upgraded and some being fixed. We saw the grand opening of the boulevard. You remember that? But what did the people do at the local government elections? The people did exactly what they had to do. If you can't give it to me all the time, don't come just nearing to elections and think you could buy me. And so, Guyanese people, supporters of the PPP, they are all suffering as well, because I must say to you, there is the elite and then you have the masses below. And we would have seen the elite at quite a lot of them at the Diamond Ball. So Guyanese people have recognized that we are the ones who are weighed down, and they have the elite. If you look at the manner with which the contracts are being awarded, one company is being issued with 5 and 6 and 7 contracts and 10 contracts, while you have a one man who's struggling, he can't even get one contract.
But all that
So
point, all that point, while that is happening, and Guyanese people are seeing, Guyanese people are becoming confused, especially our opposition supporters, because outside of the Diamond Ball, we are seeing opposition members of parliament hobnobbing and hugging and having photo opportunities with bright smiles and warm embrace with Bharat Jagdeo and Irfan Ali. And we know that it is Bara Jagdin, Irfan Ali, who are responsible for what is happening in the country at the moment. And so there's some amount. I haven't seen you though. Did you give anyone an embrace? And what is your view of that before we wrap up?
let me say to you, um, Coretta MacDonald, as a representative of the people, I have an obligation,
Yes.
and I will not, note my words, I will not be in company with the oppressors. I will not. I sit in parliament and I'm being treated worse than the way slaves were treated in when I sit in the parliament.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so you don't expect Coretta MacDonald to be hugging with the speaker anywhere outside of parliament or even within the parliament, because you don't see anything wrong with what the government is doing when we sit in the parliament. You have no objections with the name calling of women on the opposition side by ministers in the government. And so I will not, you will never see me hugging and embracing oppressors, because when you oppress my people, you are also oppressing me. And as I speak about this, I am remembering the mocker, the cane view.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And I get very angry every time I have to talk about it, because you know what the minister of housing said the other day, that people were treated with dignity and all kinds of foolishness. And then the speaker was saying he can't remember what happened at Mocha. I mean, you can tell me Chevon Eastman's face was branded
Wow.
all
Wow.
over social media
Speak,
with the
Coretta,
police
speak.
having her face in the mud, breaking down that woman's house and her shop, burying some of her stuff. As we speak, Chevron is still repaying banks DIH for some of the stocks that they dropped off to her, the beverages and so on, because it was just about a day or two those items were delivered to her. She is still on a payment plan. And so I will never, and I repeat that, I will never be seen hugging and dining with
You
people
literally made my skin grow there. It literally,
who
you made
oppress
the
my people.
pores raise up on my skin. And I want
I
to
will
say this
never.
quickly. And it's, you talk about Chevron that felt the brunt of the PPP's oppression. But our opposition member parliament, Annette Ferguson, Barajagdio disrespected her. She took him to court. She won a case against him. He owes her millions of dollars, and he has asked Anil to do whatever to ensure that she does not get paid. From my understanding to date, she hasn't been paid. But she was embracing Barajagdio in such a beautiful, smiling way. And if it confused me, you could imagine what it has done to thousands of our supporters. My best friend Gita Chandon, I love her. I love Gita. Gita is my friend. I am not afraid to say she's my friend. She hasn't called me lately or anything, but Gita was there with her friend Ali, in a way that the optics showed, look, everything is all right. These people are not doing anything to the opposition or the people of Guyana. The optics, and we're heading into an elections, a very, very crucial and important elections as it relates to how this nation will develop or how it will deteriorate. German Figueroa and others, including the leader of the opposition, standing next to Barajagdio. The optics are wrong. To us, it is unacceptable. People are in pain. People know that the PPP is a wicked and demonic regime. And when politicians stand next to these people and then ask the people to fight against the PPP and to remove them, it confuses the people. They see us as hypocrites. And I'm glad tonight, Coretta MacDonald. I haven't seen Ganesh doing that. And I'm glad tonight that Coretta MacDonald, member of parliament, a member of parliament, and the shadow minister of education that stands up to the minister of education almost every day, came on this program on Christmas morning to say that, and it restores confidence in the opposition. And that's the purpose of programs such as this one, to show that some of us in the opposition will rather die than bow to the oppressor. Coretta MacDonald, history will remember you. You are a fighter, you are genuine, you are objective, you're honest, and you're fearless. You are educated and intelligent, and you are a people's person. I want to say that on this program. And I believe that outside of the Minister of Education, I think they should give certain people two portfolios when they get into government. I would love to see you as Minister of Governance. I would love to see you as Minister of Education and Minister of Governance. You understand? Because I know that your heart is in the right place. We wrap up. We will wrap up now after this short break.
What happened? Why we win on say? Why they coming up?
Because they changed the new
Coretta MacDonald here on Voice of the Diaspora on Christmas morning here in London, and I think it'll be Christmas soon in Guyana. Um,
Yeah.
Shadow Member of Parliament, Coretta MacDonald. Shadow, sorry, Minister of Education and Member of Parliament, Coretta MacDonald here. Your closing remarks.
Well, Norman, let me thank you for inviting me on this program. And I just want to reassure you and the listeners that Coretta MacDonald, whether she holds a ministerial position or not, I will continue to fight for our people. I also want to say to us that, persons might be looking at, persons might be listening to me and they might be thinking, oh, you have to be very diplomatic sometimes. But I want to say that the politics then, when you had Forbes, Burnham, and Chetty Jagan, and you used to see them embracing. As a matter of fact, Burnham was godfather to Chetty Jagan's son, and then the two of them started facing off with each other. But the politics then was
Was
different from
different.
the
It was
politics that we
different.
have today. And so for me, radical times
Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead.
determines radical changes and radical operations
Responses,
or
radical
demands,
responses. Yeah.
radical responses. And so, um, you know, sometimes you want to say every man to his own order, but it cannot be every man to his own order when you were voted by the people who are being oppressed at this
Thank you.
time. And so we've got to be very, very conscious and very careful with what we do. Hi, good morning, good afternoon. How are you? As a matter of courtesy, I don't have a difficulty with
With
that.
that.
But you're not going to see me hitting glass. You're not going to see me hugging up. You're not going to be seeing me at those functions, because those very monies could have been used to give to our people who are suffering. And so when we have all these big fancy gatherings and so on, and millions of dollars are being spent on drinks, prawns, wherever it is, and our people, look how many of them we have sleeping on the streets.
Streets. Wow.
You know, look how many of them we have sleeping on the streets. I remember the other day when we were hosting the cricket, they were rounding up all of these people. They rounded all of them up and they took them to a home. Why we have enough monies? Why can't we keep them in those homes or those shelters? Why can't we keep them there? You go down Regent Street. If you pass there at this time, you're going to see how many of them are sleeping on the pavement. Just this morning, I was looking at a video where there was a destitute man sleeping on the median there of the Heroes Highway, and a driver stopped and was saying to him, "Get off, wake up, go in the corner and sleep, because the next thing you know, you roll off of there and put some truck driver or some minibus driver or some hire car driver or some other driver in problems. You fall off of there and they run over you. Go in the corner." And I'm saying, with the amount of monies we have in this country, if it is being managed properly, then our people can live comfortable. But again, this is the PPP, who only see themselves, their friends, their families, and their favorites as the ones who are important. But when it's time for the votes, then they see Guyanese all across this country as being important. But I want to close by saying this: if we forget our history, then we are doomed. And we must remember our history. We must remember the PPP who killed hundreds of black young men, and some Indo-Guyanese men, and some mixed men. We must remember those things. We must remember the Henry boys. We must remember Quindon Bacchus. We must remember Orrin Boston, who was shot in his sleep on
Wow.
the Essequibo Coast.
Wow.
We have to remember those things. We must remember the amount of persons who are still holding the pink COVID cash grant slips in their hands. We must remember those things. And if we remember those things, then we are bound to make the right choices. Don't be bought by a few crumbs. And finally, I want to say, Prime Minister Modi came to this country and then he returned to India, and he was at a forum where he was saying to them that he visited this Caribbean nation, Guyana, and it reminded him,
Of a
in
little
his
India.
eyes, he was seeing a mini India.
Yeah.
And he went further to say, Indians are excelling in every aspect, in politics, in education, in business, in this, in every single thing. Now, this is a renowned world leader. And we've not heard any outcry, but if it were a black leader who would come to this country and return to his country and made that statement, you would have heard all the outcries from Anil
Yes.
Nandalal and the whole set of them. But I take offense to a man coming to our country that we say every time Guyana is a multiracial society. So you can't go out there and promote one race as against all the other races. And you know why this is happening? Because according to Anil, he's a Chatri. And so that's the kind of dominance they want to have in this country. But a better day is coming.
A
A
better
better
day
day
is
is
coming. Coretta MacDonald, thank you so much for taking the time out, and it shows your dedication. It shows the extra mile you walk because this is Christmas. This is the eve of Christmas in Guyana. It's Christmas here in London. And you have taken the time out to join this program, to speak to our people, to connect with our people, to show duty, and to continue your work in this struggle regardless of what season it is. We need more of you. We need more like you. I want to thank you very much for joining this program. And it is very seldom that goosebumps raise up on my skin, but tonight you made it clear. You made it clear to the opposition. It is unacceptable while our people are trampled upon by the PPP that opposition senior figures can obnob and take photo opportunities and show the optics of some sort of unity and friendliness. Tonight you made that clear, and that is history for us. We will go into an election and we will triumph. No matter what criticisms I have of the opposition, this platform belongs to the opposition. And the PPP will not have a free day once we are here. And we will continue this struggle, whether it's Christmas, Old Year's, New Year's, Diwali, Boxing Day, or whatever. Thank you once again tonight for joining this program and for taking the time out. You made my skin grow, as we say it in Guyanese parlance. You made the hair and the pores raise up on my skin, and I am sure that many of our viewers, so many people have tuned in, so many comments. You pull a crowd and you have a voice, and I know that Priya is scared of you. But I want to play this song in closing because it is
Norman,
a song that
just be,
good.
just before you close, I want to extend Merry Christmas again to all of our Guyanese citizens here and in the diaspora. And I want to send out special Christmas greetings as well to our Chancellor acting and the Chief Justice acting. And I'm hoping
Wow, wow,
that
yes.
before the end of the year, just the same way Clifton Hickins has been confirmed, that
As
they are going to
Commissioner
be
of Police,
confirmed. Those
as
two
Commissioner of Police.
distinguished women will be confirmed in those positions. Special Christmas greetings to them and their families.
Coretta MacDonald, continue the fight. This song is dedicated to you.
Many rivers to cross, but I can't And this loneliness won't leave me alone. It's such a drag to be on my own. My woman left me, but she didn't tell me why. Well, I guess I've got to cry. I've got to many rivers to cross, but just where to begin? I'm plaguing for time. There've been times I find myself thinking of committing some dreadful crime.